Good morning, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing a video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know, and I want to go over antimatter. I've been reading a little bit about astronomy lately, and it reminds me of some things I've heard and learned about cosmic whatnot, especially considering current prevailing theories and beliefs among scientific communities and astronomers about the origins of our universe, in particular the Big Bang. And I want to talk a little bit about this, where they say they're in agreement. Apparently, the academic circles are in agreement that in the Big Bang there must have been equal portions of matter and antimatter that were created or brought into existence by whatever means necessary. They think that there were equal portions, is the point. And here's my observation. My observation is that matter and antimatter may not be what we expect. I think that antimatter is a good idea as far as a possible explanation and prediction of one of the things that came out of the Big Bang. I don't know if it's substantial, like as far as being provable. I don't believe we have contained, maybe we have, and I should check my facts, but they claim to have created antimatter in a laboratory. So perhaps it is proven at this point, but my concern and my skepticism stand that many of the theories that people, and especially scientists and astronomers, seem to believe pretty conclusively are not only unproven, but unprovable from our perspective on Earth here with the tools that we have, such as, and this is a parallel idea to the one I just mentioned, and dark matter, dark energy and dark matter. These terms started getting a lot of wide circulation back in the 90s. To my recollection, there wasn't a whole lot of mention before that, and they became kind of popular. And there are people now who stand by it and say, oh, it's irrefutable, it's proven, there's no other possibility. If you look at these equations, and here's the problem. Hold on a second. If you look at the equations, this seems to be a qualifier that gets glossed over so often. This is my point. If you look at these equations that are based on some assumptions, it's based on an assumption. It's based on a theory. So here is the possible problem. Now, I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm saying that at best, most of our astronomical observations are based on assumptions and theories. And it makes sense to me. It seems even probable, very likely, that many of our assumptions are wildly incorrect. And they just exist to bridge gaps between ideas. We say, well, this idea could be true if something else is true, so let's explore that hypothetically. And since we can't disprove it or prove it, we'll just move forward and qualify it with, if these equations are true, then, and we all move forward assuming that they must be. It's the must be part that I'm disputing here. So antimatter is thought to be exactly like matter, except it has a reverse polarity. And just as an aside, there's some confusion about possible use as a fuel if we could somehow practically produce it and contain it. Here's the challenge, right? And if you've seen Star Trek, many episodes of Star Trek talk about antimatter as a fuel or propulsion. Most people, I think, don't understand that it's not a fuel. It's just, it interacts in theory with matter in 100% annihilation. This is what, if you combine matter and antimatter, they equally annihilate each other in a burst of pure energy as a result. So you could potentially, build an engine or some way to harness that energy, but it's not fuel, perhaps. Which is an interesting idea, because if they're right about the origins of our universe, that is the Big Bang having created all this antimatter, then it's conceivable to think that looking at the sky through a telescope, we see pictures of galaxies and all kinds of features of the night sky. And for all we know, an entire galaxy out there could be an anti-galaxy. How would you know? how would you know if it's separate completely from the rest of the galaxies? There's a great deal of vacuum interstellar space between them. It's not impossible to think maybe you're looking at an entire anti-galaxy with made entirely of antimatter. It could happen in principle, on the same principle. I think it's an interesting possible storyline for a book or a movie that space travelers or explorers would bridge this interstellar space, only to find out, to their astonishment and horror, when they got to this location, that the entire galaxy itself was made of antimatter and they couldn't interact with anything, or else they would explode. Kind of a funny idea. Anyway, reach out with questions or comments or other thoughts to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.